Sports Talk. Let's go. Good morning. How you guys doing? It's me, your boy, Ryan Flowers, a.k.a. Clutch Sports Talk in the house. It's Sunday morning, and you know what that means. It's another edition of NFL Sunday Morning with me, your host, Ryan Flowers, a.k.a. Clutch Sports Talk. It's week 5. We are basically a quarter through the season. Can't believe it's just been blown by so fast, man. Week 5 already, it's here. A lot of big matchups today we want to talk about. But today, I'm going to get straight into my first power rankings of the season, something I'm going to probably continue to do the rest of the way now that I got more information about some teams. Then we're going to segue over into our predictions and then wrap it up with my clutch picks of the week, which I'm doing pretty good. I'm 9-5 right now. I went 3-1 last week, and I probably could have went undefeated. But hey, that's what I do over here. So, hey, without further ado, man, I want you guys to sit back and relax and enjoy the show. This is Clutch Sports Talk, NFL Sunday Morning with me, Ryan Flowers. Let's go. Welcome in. Hope you guys are doing all right, man. Hey, it's Sunday morning. And again, this is the best time of the year I can say. Football season's among us. We got the weather is changing. It's nice and crisp outside here, especially here in Las Vegas, where it's been deadly hot this past summer. But now things are starting to cool off. But on the field, things are heating up again. Welcome to NFL Sunday Morning with me, Ryan Flowers. But hey, this show is presented to you by The Grid, the future leaders in sports media, content, and entertainment, man. You want to check us out. We got a great lineup. We got guys from baseball to wrestling, football. If you're a Dallas Cowboys fan like me, we got other guys that do sports variety shows as well. So you guys want to check out the page. Go to The Grid on YouTube and hit us up there. And also make sure you subscribe to me on YouTube as well. Type in Clutch Sports Talk. You can find me also on Instagram, TikTok, and of course YouTube. So that's where you can get all my content. So I'm going to be pumping out a lot more stuff, especially because football season is among us, and that's what I do. I pump out football, particularly NFL action. So what else can I say? And if you're in the room right now, I appreciate you guys watching. Make sure you guys, leave something in the chat. We can get something going on in here. Got some questions, comments, or concerns, man. Let's get it popping in the chat. So hey, that's what I like to say. So, hey, but first thing I want to talk about today is my first power ranking. So you're probably wondering, well, it's week 5 and why am I waiting so long to do power rankings? Well, the main reason for me is because I don't believe in like the first week power rankings, right? Because you don't know a lot about these teams. Some teams you thought were going to be good, they suck. Some teams that were going to be bad, they're good. So you don't really know. I think after four full weeks of football, now I have a better understanding on who these teams are. Because at the end of the day, you are what you eat. You are what your record says for the most part for the majority of these teams. And so therefore, I'm waiting now to finally unveil my power rankings, which is something I'm going to be probably doing the rest of the way up until the playoffs. So without further ado, let's check out the first week of week 5 of the power rankings for Clutch Sports Talk. So I got the Chiefs at number 1. This one was a little topsy-turvy as far as between them and the Eagles, because obviously the Eagles are undefeated. So I don't want to disrespect them. But part of the reason why I took the Chiefs number 1, even though they do have a loss and the Eagles don't have a loss, I like what Kansas City did last week, going on the road into Tampa Bay against Tom Brady. Regardless if you think Tom Brady isn't the same guy, it really doesn't matter because he's still Tom Brady. And he did get some weapons back, but the Kansas City Chiefs did their thing. They were very, very dominant in that game, and I like what they did. Now, the only thing for them I'm really concerned about is still their defense to a certain extent, because, listen, their defense has never been a dominating defense. They can get after the quarterback fairly well. With Chris Jones, they can force that pressure. However, they don't force enough turnovers for me, and I don't know if that'll come back to bite them in the butt. But in the end, this is still a very, very solid team. And, with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, at the helm, they're going to be all right offensively, I think. I'm not going to say they don't miss Tyreek Hill. I mean, look what Tyreek Hill is doing in Miami. However, though, because of their offensive their brain power there, they're going to find ways to create opportunities for other guys. I'm not saying they're going to be totally replacing Tyreek Hill and his productivity, and at some point they may miss him, right? But right now their offense is doing all right, and I got the Chiefs at number 1. Okay, all right. Then next, I got the Philadelphia Eagles. They're 4-0. They're going into I would say a trap game today in Arizona. Arizona Cardinals. We'll talk about that, the predictions later on. But just to stay on top of the power rankings, look, offensively, they're really good. Defensively, they're kind of middle of the pack. They don't do anything really well, but they're okay. They're okay. Their front seven isn't what it used to be a couple years ago. They have some injuries in the secondary at this point in time, but offensively, I mean, they're at the top of every category, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, this team right now, their offensive efficiency is going really well. Jalen Hurts is playing out of his mind right now. With the addition of A.J. Brown, the Eagles are flying and soaring high. Just looking at a couple of their stats right now. Offensively, yards per game, they're second. Passing yards, they're 6th. Rushing yards, they're 5th. And points per game, they're 4th. And third down, they're really good. They're in top 10 third down conversion, which is a stat that I really, really like. Third down conversions is very good. And then, like I said, defensively, they're not giving up a lot of yards. Their biggest struggle really right now is their third down their third down defense. But overall, they're not a bad defense. They're kind of just like maybe top 10 fringe, top 15, I would say overall. But this is a very, very good team so far. And we'll see what happens today in Glendale. And I'll give you guys my predictions with that one. All right. Buffalo Bills. Buffalo Bills are my third team. I was very high on the Buffalo Bills, and then somehow they just kind of like, I don't know what's wrong with them. I know for the most part, they got a really big come from behind win last week against the Baltimore Ravens. Offensively, again, they're doing their thing. I think they're second or third in yards. I know they're up there with scoring, but they are very, very reliant on Josh Allen. Which, okay, that I know you're probably thinking that, well, that's stupid. Most people who have a tremendous quarterback like that, he should be relying on him. But what I'm saying is that like everything has to go through him, whether it's through the running game, obviously the passing game because he's a wide receiver. But at some point that always comes back to bite them in the last couple of years, especially if teams are able to slow him down somehow. And that's my major concern for them is that, yeah, they're 12th in rushing, but how many of those yards are Josh Allen's? I mean, realistically. And then right now, defensively, their secondary is banged up. I mean, they got 3 or 4 guys that are out. I think for the most part, some of them are on injured reserve, if I'm not mistaken. So that's going to be a tough stretch, but they're well coached. They're a good football team, and they're gonna fluctuate. They may have an opportunity to rise up in the standings in my power rankings, or they can drop down just a little bit. But they're still a good football team and one that you have to watch out for. All right. My fourth team, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Listen, it hasn't been like a storybook season for them so far. But listen, you still got Tom Brady. You still got Tom Brady. He's still looking like he's that guy. He can still throw that football. But I do start to wonder, with the whole personal things going on, guys coming in and out of the lineup, especially wide receivers with Chris Godwin and making Mike Evans might get hurt again or he was suspended a couple weeks ago. Not much of a running game, I would per se. They're almost dead last when it comes to rushing yards. But they're up there. They're still middle of the pack in regards to scoring, things of that nature. So to me, they've fallen off. Definitely, from where they were the last 2 years to where they are now, they're not as potent as they once were, I would say. And then defensively, I mean, you can get stuff off them. Passing yards, they're not top 10. They're still formidable, but there's opportunities for them if you got a team that can throw the football and spread it around. Third down percentage, they're not good at getting off the field. They're not good at getting off the field on third down. They're ranked 20th. So if you have a team that's really good at converting on third downs, you got a good chance against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense to get off now. So and you know what? One thing I will say too, you used to be able to not be able to run against them. Now teams can kind of gash them a little bit. So again, they still have Tom Brady. They still have guys on the field. we still have, some games left in the year, obviously, so we'll have to wait and see. But I got them at 4th right now. All right, coming in at number 5, the Baltimore Ravens with Lamar Jackson. This team should be undefeated. I mean, really, they blew 2 home games that they should have won. Now they're coming into a Sunday night matchup, which we'll talk about here shortly. But Baltimore offensively, what can I say? They for whatever it's worth, and people don't really realize this. Lamar Jackson's playing great. Don't get me wrong, but they're still 21st in passing, right? They're top 10 in rushing because that's what they do. They run the football with Lamar Jackson. Points per game, they're putting up a lot of points. That's what they normally do. Third down conversions, they're pretty solid at. So offensively, they're okay. They're not the Eagles, they're not the Chiefs, but they can move the ball if need be. But their real deficiency right now is their defense, which is a head scratcher because when you think of Baltimore, you think of defense. You think of defense. At least that's what I think of. Yards per game, they're 30th in the league. Passing yards, you can pass them. They're dead last. Granted, their secondary isn't what it once was at one point. Rushing yards, you can definitely run against them. They're ranked, tied for 14th. Points per game, you can score on them. As you can see, with the Bills coming back, the Miami Dolphins coming back against them at home. The Ravens definitely have some deficiencies, and I think sometimes Lamar Jackson can't overcome that. He's trying his best. I'll give him credit. He's doing what he's got to do, but the defense is just not living up to that Baltimore Ravens pedigree, which we're so used to. And one thing that I've noticed with them is that they cannot rush the quarterback at all, and that would probably explain why they're dead last in passing yards on defense. They can't get after it. Calais Campbell, I like him, but he's a shell of himself anymore, right? They don't have any edge rushers. They don't have anybody that can get after the quarterback, which they used to have when they had T. Sizzle or Justin Houston or even Calais Campbell when he was a little bit younger and not, injured for the most part, But now they don't really have that. They're not moving the pocket and they're not putting any pressure, so quarterbacks can sit there and throw all day, and especially on a secondary that's kind of weakened right now, I would say. But because they can score on you. They can stay in games. That's why I still have them at 5th because their offense is still pretty much is potent enough, especially with Lamar Jackson, because he can make a play here or a play there, and boom, next thing you know, you're down 14-0 or whatever the case may be. All right. Now, the Miami Dolphins, I would have flipped them with the Ravens, but they don't have Tua. And not to say that Tua is just so much better than Teddy Bridgewater, but listen, been there, done that with Teddy Bridgewater. I mean, he's essentially what you call a backup. I mean, he's a backup. That's what he is. He's not going to come in. He's not going to throw the ball down the field because that's not what Teddy Bridgewater is. He's more of a game manager kind of guy. Maybe he's never had a weapon like Tyreek Hill. But I have the Dolphins at 6 only because they don't have their starting quarterback. If they had him, because Tua was playing pretty well for the most part before the head injuries occurred, coming off of a really big win against Baltimore. And then obviously they fell to the Bengals last week, Thursday. But for the most part, this team, offensively, 3rd in passing, dead last, almost dead last in rushing yards. They don't really run the ball that effectively. But why would you when you have, so many talented guys on the outside? Points per game, they're 9th. And, third down conversions, they're pretty good. Now, all this might change, basically. But I will say Teddy Bridgewater is pretty good on third down conversions from what I remember. But really, this team is going to they got to pick it up on defense. They got to pick it up on defense, and that's another reason why, too, I didn't have them over the Ravens, even though the Ravens are pretty atrocious on defense as well. The Miami Dolphins, through 4 weeks already, are just as bad. They're 28th in points allowed. Passing, they're 31st, right behind the Baltimore Ravens. You can't really run on them. They're ranked 11th. And scoring-wise, they're okay. They're okay. No, excuse me there. And then, third down conversion, they're 30th. So they got some things to clean up on the offense, defensive side of the ball, which, when you get a coach, an offensive-minded coach like Mike McDaniels, the defense is going to fade away a little bit. And granted, they got some injuries, Byron Jones, cornerback, who's always seems like he's always injured out since he left the Cowboys. He hasn't played a down yet. but like I was saying, when you go from a Brian Flores, who's a more of a defensive minded guy, to an offensive kind of guy, this Miami defense was pretty solid the last couple of years under Brian Flores. And now you can kind of see some deficiencies there now. Offensively, they picked up, but then you can see now the defensive side of things, they've kind of fallen a little bit. And so they're going to have to get that righted. But this is a team that might drop considerably. But we'll have to wait and see what happens with them because their defense is going to have to play a lot better, especially when you have a backup quarterback in like you do with Teddy Bridgewater. All right. Minnesota Vikings. Yeah, I really don't like this team. not from a personal standpoint. I just feel like they're fraudulent, man. Like Kirk Cousins to me, I don't know, man. They always are supposed to. They're like the Cowboys, and I say that because we do the same thing too as the Cowboys fans. Well, maybe not me, but majority. You got a lot of Vikings fans that are like, you know what, this is it. This is their time, and they just never come through. They just never come through. Now they had a really big win last week on the road across the pond in the UK, but I just they're still a middle of the road type of team. I mean, from an offensive standpoint, they're not that they're not that like, oh my God, like we got to they're not juggernauts, basically what I'm saying. And you would think with Justin Jefferson there, Dalvin Cook, I mean, they're 12th in passing. Rushing, they don't really run. They're 22nd. They're averaging 98 yards a game. You would figure there'd be more with Dalvin Cook, but he's in and out of the lineup. Third down conversion, they're 27th, so they don't convert third downs very often. And maybe I had them too high, honestly, man. I really probably shouldn't even have them this high, but I'm giving them a little respect. And then defensively, they're not even that great. I mean, they're giving up 407 yards a game. Passing, they're 26th ranked. Rushing, they're 23rd. Points per game, they're 13th. And third down conversions, they're tied for 12th. So in those areas, they're decent at. But you can definitely pass on them and you can run on them at this point. So they're regressing too as far as from a defensive standpoint. But again, you have a offensive-minded type of coach. So where you think things are going to be deficient at in the defensive side of the ball. So we'll have to wait and see. But this team, I feel like they're going to start slipping even more so. And I'm going to be right there and waiting in open arms for them to slip because I still don't have them winning this division, although I'm not that excited about the next team, really, even though they are winning right now. Packers are up 20-10 in the UK against the Giants. So and speaking of the Packers, that's my next team, as you can see. I got them eighth in on my power rankings. This for whatever it's worth, the Green Bay Packers, they still have Aaron Rodgers. And now they struggled last week against Bailey Zappi at home. But they can run the football. And I think that's what they need to do. They don't have the guys outside. You lost Devontae Adams.